Okay, here is our update on the broader markets. It is July 29th, so this is the last day. This was the last day of the month for equities, at least. Crypto still has a few days before the monthly candle closes, but we have the monthly candle close for equities, commodities, etc. So we're going to look at the broader equity markets, and we actually have an incredibly bullish signal, especially from QQQ, the NASDAQ 100. Didn't quite get that from the S&P, but it is interesting that the QQQ is leading, and since it did lead to the downside. But I mean, my God, look at this chart. This is a daily chart of SPX, and you can see we had this move up, then a move down, then a move up, lower high, then a move down, double sort of bottom, then a move up, slight higher high, then a move down, but it was a higher low, and now, wow, furious move up. Now, the next thing you would expect, right? If you just kind of draw this out, you would expect that you're gonna get, some kind of pullback. It's a question of when do you get it? Is it like early next week, like that, and then that? And also how far up do you go? Obviously, that is the part, it is kind of unknowable, but you'll kind of triangulate in real time. But the point here is this is incredibly bullish. At the same time, now we're probably going to be in a little bit of a chop zone after this like really powerful trend move, 3 really strong trend days, and it's day 28 of the daily cycle. So you would expect we're going to get our top pretty soon. Today could have been it, right? Maybe we get a couple more days up. Maybe we really kind of test this upper level, which is right around 4,200, which at this point is kind of acting like a magnet almost, right? So yeah, so 4180, 4190, so another 50 points up. You can imagine we overshoot and get to like the 4,200 area at the very least. But importantly, on a weekly level, again, I posted this on Twitter. I've been saying this. It looks like we have the possibility that we had a really, really short weekly cycle. And at this point, that is the case, right? This was a weekly cycle low back on June 13th, the week of June 13th, week 16. And so this is kind of annoying because now it's like, okay, wow. So we're actually now on week 6. We now have very strong evidence that the weekly cycle low is in, but we have it only on week 6 of the new weekly cycle. That's atypical. Usually I'm able to, well, I should say, usually if you know how to analyze price action, you should be able to tell within the first 1 or 2 weeks. Here we're in obviously week 6 and we've had a powerful move. That's fine. As I said, we're probably going to see some consolidation. Again, this kind of area you can see being sort of a congestion zone, but maybe we make a push through it, right? And then test this kind of sort of open air. This becomes your congestion zone sort of next time. That's the real question. When do we get our top for this weekly cycle? Last weekly cycle topped on week 5 for SPX. The one before that, week 13. And then before that, it was actually, you didn't get your top until into the 20s, right? So week 26, week 22, week 24. I doubt we're back into that kind of phase where we're going to have a rally for 20, 24, 22 weeks. So we're probably close to a top right now. There's no sense in sort of trying to guess when that comes exactly. We're going to have to watch the price action, watch it on lower time frames to sort of confirm the possible pullback, the possible move into a weekly cycle low. Most importantly, we're going to get a daily cycle low soon. And so we're going to want to watch for that. And if we look at the monthly chart, we missed it by just a hair. And I want to focus on QQQ, where we actually did make it. So we did not get that move above 41.85, which would have given us a new high on the monthly chart and would have made June a monthly swing low, right? Because if we could go above this high for this month, that makes this month a swing low, this big low. Now, because we have this candle closed here, and just look at the structure of this, This makes it so that it should be relatively easy for us to get a monthly swing low now, because now all we have to do is get above the high from this candle. Though I would say still technically we really want to get above that 41.85 level, kind of leave this low behind us. That's how a major bottom forms. And you'll see, like, that's the way to sort of think about it, right? Like, we have these series of swing lows, or swing highs, I should say, excuse me. We need to get above those. And as we get above each series of swing highs on each time frame, successively higher and higher, that's how we know we're getting a bottom. So for instance, once we get this move above this June high, we'll then want to see a move above this March high here at 46.44, which is obviously a really long way away, even once we get through, let's say, the 4,200. And that's the frustrating part. That's the tenuous part. That's why it's complicated. It's difficult. We could spend some time, we can make a move above here and then spend some time kind of chopping around in this neutral zone very easily. And it's like, okay, are we going to make a bigger leg lower? But most importantly, QQQ has made that move and it closed there, right? So we have our monthly swing low for QQQ. Very, very positive sign. At the same time, we have the same situation for the Qs, right? So for the Qs, if we want to be really specific, our next real date with Destiny is right around, I want to say, call it the 32, like call it the, 320, high 320s, right? 327 to 329, 330, right? Like this candle, right? This May candle, wow. I can only imagine how many people got just chopped up in here, right? Like the way we had this like furious rally, we had this big pullback, like just all this noise to really kind of end up where we sort of started. And so you can imagine this high here is going to give us some trouble. Just kind of, you can imagine it being a big supply zone. A lot of people wanting to sell around that level, if they've still been holding on. But then from there, from that 330 area, you have sort of almost a vacuum to 373. Now that could end up being a chop zone, just as we talked about for SPX. But that's the sort of level that you want to be aware of. That next move. So we're at 315 now. So another 15 points up. And then from there, you could be looking at another 50 point, what is that? Another 44 point move, something like that. And you can imagine it could overshoot, right? Now, that doesn't mean that we're not still declining into the 3-year cycle, right? So like low, right? So like we could see even something like, like a dramatic move here, but then it still resolves into a lower low, into that, low. And it doesn't have to be exactly the same timing as that 3-year cycle. Really think of it as a broader, longer term cycle. But the point is, we're in this like really long term sort of downdraft. And what I'll do is actually, to sort of bring the point home, I'll just, now looking at the NDX, the actual sort of index itself. So this goes back to like 1985, right? So I'll actually take the moving average off because that's maybe easier to see. And actually maybe we'll make it quarterly. So you can see from this, and hopefully, watching this channel has helped you sort of hone your skills to some degree. You can see that, actually, maybe what if we just make it an annual chart, right? Like that's actually maybe really helpful. So you can see that's been like mostly just a lot of green bars. So just to be clear, this is an annual sort of chart in terms of time frame, which means every candle is an entire year of price action. So this candle right here, 2022, is obviously not finished. It's just, July just closed. So, we still have, 5 months. So August, September, October, November, December. And so it is in the process of, it's still forming, right? But this gives you that big picture view, right? Going back to 1985, right? And so we've had a pretty furious rally. We had a pretty furious rally from 1985 all the way to that top in 2000, right? We had literally one red year from 1985 to that 2000 top. So about 15 years, right? Pretty incredible run. But then notice that we had a 3 year. Not only were they red, but we were making new lows each year. That's really important. I hope you're following me, right? So that's your new low. So this year we made a low below this year, and then we made another new low this year below this low here. And this was frustrating, I imagine, because we had a nice little, rally here as evidenced by this lower wick. But then we opened here and we still just collapsed lower, right? So 3 years of red. And then we finally get a green year. So you're making money again, but we don't make a new high. We're just consolidating. And then we have this kind of creeping up, still nowhere near this new high. So really this whole period, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even though these are green years, are still just consolidation within this lower range. Essentially a bear flag that did not play out, right? It's a failed bear flag, right? This here, right? Like think about that. This move lower and then this like tepid move higher. You could have imagined would have caused the bear flag. I mean, look at this. That was your 2008, your GCF. You would like that actually in real time. I could see how this looked like it was this was the collapse of this whole structure here, right? That you were going to take out this low and then this one, and then just kind of the bottom would fall out. That didn't happen. You had this consolidation, big green year, and then you just been moving up ever since. So since that 2009, you moved up. So 2019 gave you 10 years, 11, 12, and now wham, you made a new low below last year. That's a new thing. Hasn't happened in a really long time. And the year is still playing out, right? Are we going to get one of these, right? I don't know, right? And at this point, it seems likely that this year is going to close red, right? I mean, it's certainly, I'm not making a prediction by any means. It would certainly be a Herculean effort for this year to not be red. And so it's really a question of, do we get something like this where it's red and then a rebound, or something more like this where it's red and then a harbinger of more to come? That's what we're going to have to see from the price action. Right now, we don't know enough to know that. And anyone that says any more than that really can't know that, right? Like, you have to see how the price action is going to develop. This is just really helpful to get that kind of big picture view. This is obviously a very severe correction, a bigger one that we've had in a very long time. Notice this 2018 year, that was the year that we got that crazy downdraft into Christmas Eve, that Christmas Eve bottom, and that's how that candle turned out. So interesting, like it looked like a big doji, although if we zoom into the monthly, you can see where is that? Yeah, so that's that's what caused your doji, right? Like this downdraft. So that was September, October, November, December, big. And you had a big rebound though, higher low, move up higher. That was your COVID. Then this huge move, little consolidation, nice move higher. I mean, you can kind of see this, like if you just kind of look at that, like this was your COVID crash, which was very sharp, very short, right? We made a really big plunge lower, but then look at this rebound, this huge V reaction, right? And then this is your GCF. And this is looking at it on a monthly level, right? Your global financial crisis, your top in October 2007, your move down, your lower high, another move down, but it's a higher low. So this kind of faked people out. It's like, oh, wow, okay, we held a higher low. We didn't break this low, but then we make another lower high, lower than this one, and then the flush lower, a little consolidation. At this point, I can see in real time, you're like, okay, the bottom's going to fall out. We're going to take out this low. But then we bottom, right? We make a move higher. And notice, again, it's important to just, this is why like charts are so powerful. You don't have to actually trade through it to and live through it to kind of see. You can see we had some churn when we got right around this kind of level where we had this kind of breakdown, right? This wasn't a clean move up, but then we finally got up there, and then we pulled back again, some more churn. So like it's like it never goes up in a straight line. It also doesn't go down in a straight line, which again is to the point here. We could have this furious bear market rally, like something like that, right? Like that would be painful, right? Like, but you can make some money here as long as you don't get so too attached to it. You have your stops, and then when you're down here, it's like, okay, well, am I wrong? Am I wrong? It's like, okay, maybe I'm not wrong, but once you start to move lower, it's like, okay, I'm wrong, right? And you don't want to be down here selling, right? Or even like up here, like, or but here buying and thinking, okay, everything is okay, and it's like, well, wait, this is your third lower high, and this is all hypothetical. These are scenarios. The point here is understand what it means to be like. This is a huge downtrend at this point, but we're getting signs that it is just starting to reverse. That is incredibly exciting, and it means the risk parameters are very clear in terms of your levels. Like if you wanted to give it the most room possible, you'd set your stop below, let's say, I wouldn't necessarily use a monthly chart. Like maybe, if we look at the weekly level, right? So I think this is probably the level that's the most actionable. You can see we had this failed rally and then this flush lower, this failed rally, flush lower. And now we had this move and then this, like what it looked like, okay, well, this is not going to work out, but we held it, right? So this whole area becomes your higher low. And now we made a higher high, slight higher high, higher than this. And so what we want to see next week, ideally is a push higher, right? So you want to see a bit of a push higher, but we're going to get a higher low on the weekly level. So you want to see, you want to see us hold something, right? Like, so something like that. Like you could see something like that. Again, even if we're going to get another leg down, right? You could see something like that form on the weekly. And again, the point is you have to know that you have to anticipate there's going to be a higher low that's going to form, which again, I would go back to that idea that we're close to a daily cycle high. So that's probably going to be our daily cycle decline across the indices. That SPX chart, pretty much the same count for Qs and IWM. So that's what you would expect, right? That daily cycle low is going to give us our potential higher low on the weekly. And then if it's bullish, we move higher, make another higher low, move higher, make another higher low, etc. on the weekly. How that turns out on the daily is something we'll have to triangulate and look at in real time. But that's the point of multiple time frame analysis. You want to be trying to understand how the most actionable time frame can impact the other time frames that you can use to sort of monitor and triangulate. But really, really bullish so far. Clear and for NDX, this would be a daily cycle, a weekly cycle low on week 13, and we're on week 6. So that raises the prospect that it's going to be a long weekly cycle. And so but again, that doesn't mean we have to have a long rally. A long weekly cycle doesn't necessarily mean a long rally. It could be a short rally and a really long decline. So these are the things we want to really kind of watch for, because we're in kind of unprecedented sort of territory, which is really exciting because price action is king. It always is king. And I think now it's really coming to the fore, maybe a little bit, even more so than ever.